Good evening. I call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for April 27, 2020. Do we have the boardroom for the pledge?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I guess I'll lead the pledge. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Very well done. Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
He was here a little while
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, I know. I saw Joe.
I'll come back. Trustee Matal.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Present by phone.
Mayor Grasso.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Okay, let's wait for Joe.
Sorry, gents.
That's okay. We got you, Joe.
I'm calling in.
Okay.
All right, so takes us to item 3. I convene the public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 budget. Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard on the fiscal year 2021 budget? Doug, do we have any emails about that? Any emails from anybody requesting to be heard during the public hearing on the budget?
No, we did not receive any emails regarding the budget.
Is anyone calling in? Have you received any calls yet from anyone who wants to speak during the public hearing on the budget?
I did not receive any calls. I don't know if anyone's waiting online.
Yeah, well, can you tell if anyone's waiting online?
Brad, are they unmuted so they could speak up?
Yes, and I do not see anybody that hasn't spoken up that's not unmuted.
Okay, then can I get a motion to close public hearing on the fiscal year 2021 budget? So moved. Do I have a
Second.
What, I'm sorry, what are you voting on, Gary?
I need a motion to close the public hearing on the budget.
So move.
We need a second.
Second.
Was that Tony?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa, Trustee Matal.
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Model, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's 6-0.
Okay. That takes us to item 4, the consent agenda. Does anybody want anything removed from the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, all items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed by the board, open for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. 5 minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of April 13, 2020. B, file and receive plan commission meeting of April 20, 8G. approval of recommendation to add a business to the tourism recovery program. H, approval of request for blanket raffle license for 2020 for the Willowbrook Burr Ridge Chamber of Commerce and posting facility licenses as needed for various locations in conjunction with the Chamber's fundraising events throughout the year. I, approval of request from Willowbrook Burr Ridge Chamber of Commerce for placement of temporary promotional signs as needed at various locations in connection with the Chamber's fundraising events throughout the 2020 event year. And J, approval of the vendor list dated April 27, 2020, in the amount of $327,328.59 for all funds, plus $205,481.95 for payroll for the period ending April 4, 2020, for a grand total of $602,810.54, which includes special expenditures of $14,442.14 to Thomas Engineering for the 2020 water main replacement project and $40,303.20 to RJN Group for sanitary sewer televising of the MWRD control program. Can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda: 5A and B, 8G and H, and I and J?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
5-1.
5-1. Okay, that takes us to ordinances. Can I request that the trustees please put yourselves on mute until you wish to speak? I'm getting a lot of background noise from more than one source, I think. 6A, ordinances. Consideration of an ordinance adopting the budget for all corporate purposes of the Village of Burr Ridge, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois, in lieu of the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of May 2020 and ending on the 30th day of April 2021. Can I get a motion to adopt the budget?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are we going to have a discussion after the fact?
No, now's a discussion. If people have questions or want to hear anything from Doug or anybody else, now's the time.
Okay, can I ask Doug a few questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Doug, in the budget, I finally found the Irma has a $576,000 in reserves. We're taking $250 of that reserves this year for paying our portion of Irma. Another 125 was taken and out. 20,000 was going to section 3, page 6 for the road program. Where did the other 105,000 go? I can't hear you, Doug. You're on mute.
Yeah,
Doug, we can't hear you.
I can't hear you, Doug.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is staying in the Irma Reserve Fund. Jerry, can you confirm that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that money is still there with Irma and will stay there until we decide we want to use it. So 105,000 is just standard. You're just taking 20 of the 125 you put in the budget? That's correct. Okay. On that same section, section 2, page 7, Tony asked a good question earlier on the reimbursables, which I thought was great. Where did you have the expenses? I know you're trying to get reimbursed, but do you have it somewhere in the budget?
Section 2, page 7. Is this Irma expenses?
This is the FEMA.
Fund revenues.
FEMA, thank you.
He's being reimbursed, but there's no expense. I couldn't find any expenses in the budget. Tony had a good question, followed up with Amy, I think, but we didn't get the expenses. Like, where's the expenses in the budget? Jerry, you want to respond to that?
Yes, that's an estimate of all the expenses we're currently accumulating in the operating budget. And that estimate is the amount of revenue we're currently estimating that we're going to get reimbursed from IRMA. It's, all the hand sanitizers, all the, technology things that we did, masks, everything that we had purchased because of the pandemic.
But where did you spend the money, Jerry? Where, can you show me where?
It's currently in our, hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
It's currently not in this budget. It's being currently spent in the FY 1920 budget.
And it will show up in various accounts such as operating supplies, the IT fund, just depending on what's being purchased. Some of it is salaries, I think. But wherever it's being purchased from, whatever we're spending, as one example, legal fees, we're tracking legal fees, and anything our attorney spends for the, covering the COVID-19 pandemic above and beyond normal expenses, we'll target or mark that as a COVID-19 expense and add that to the reimbursements.
Okay. Not
Right.
exactly. You're spending the money somewhere, but you're just gonna tell me what you're gonna receive back, but you're gonna go along and just put it in 1920 budget, but you're getting money back in next year. Okay. I have another question on the water fund, if it's okay. Section 3, page 81.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going from the actual 1920, 5.384 million in revenue, and you're gonna jump 1.15 additional for next year for the budget, when the past 3 years have it at 5 million or 5.5 million or less. Like we talked about this twice in our water meetings. Why would you project a 6.5 increase in water when we know, I don't really see people going to spend more water to water their lawn. They're not going to have the money. I don't see, you're not going to build a lot more houses. So we've got a few things there where I think this 1.15 guesstimate is a little extreme. And I'd like to know how you arrived at that.
Jerry, you want to explain your revenue model there?
Sure. The last couple of years have been wet years, and I think we've discussed this at the water committee meeting. That is based on the current year revenue, an average of 570 million gallons of water that we anticipate selling.
But we looked at the meeting, you didn't spend that many gallons the last few years. I thought we discussed this more than once, more than twice in our meetings. So I know you're going to sell, but there's going to be an additional cost. They're going to raise it. And I know we're raising our fees, but I think 1.15 extra is a little bit aggressive. You were in the meetings with us also, and I think we talked about that.
Yes, we did, and I had handed out a chart that showed how we came up with the revenue, billing out $570 million on a typical year at the new rate structure. So that's where we ended up with that revenue analysis.
I wish we, well,
Point of clarification, Jerry just said 573 million. I don't think that's the right number.
Yeah, that did sound a little too high. Hey, Brad, there's some background noise. I don't know if it's coming from one of the participants or the system itself, but there is certainly some background noise. Almost sounds like running water.
Yeah, I hear that too, Gary.
I think, Doug, did you just mute yours? Yeah, Doug, it's coming from Doug. He muted his mic and it went away.
Okay, Well, let's get back to Joe's question and the correction of the amount of money. It sounded too high too, so I'm a little confused at this point too. So Doug or Jerry, would you walk us through that one more time?
Doug, you got on mute.
Doug, you must be muted because I'm not.
I need to go back and forth because of the background noise, but, so Jerry, we did some modeling. I mean, you had some graphs and charts, right? I don't know if you can track that down right now. I can try to do that too.
Well, if you go to, if I can help, if you go to section 2, page 12, there is a graph there that goes over the water fund revenue. And I had the same question, Joe. There is an increase in consumption by about 13%. And that is according to the model that they have. That will take us to that revenue number.
Well, in this model,
So it was my understanding that that increase in consumption was getting us back to an average year of consumption from a wet year of consumption. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
if that's true, and you're going back to a regular, I'm trying to look through the water fund revenue sheet. I still think that even after the 2 meetings with the water and Jerry's tables, et cetera, I think we've actually discussed this, and Trustee Francis, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I felt that was high to begin with, and I think this in the budget's a little off myself. And then the second thing is in that water meeting, we also discussed about the water study. And there's no water model, because to do all the corrections and fix everything, Dave was very specific. Look, we're going to put some things in the back burner. We'll do this water study for $125,000. And this way we'll know what's going to break or get a pretty good handle on everything. And this will protect us rather than going blind and get killed in engineering. So I don't see the $125,000 for the water model study, or water study as you want to call it. That's not in here either.
That was waitlisted.
There is, the water study model is in the budget.
It is.
It is.
Can you tell me what page, Amy?
Yes, let me try to find that.
Hey Doug, you have to mute yourself until you want to speak, because your background is too distracting.
You know, I don't know why we would want to spend too much time on that, because it's a function of weather. If we happen to have any type of a dry, warm summer, we'll shoot way beyond that 100,000.
Yeah, while we're looking that up.
Okay, I just found it. It is a little, it's not as explicit in the budget itself, but I guess if you were to compare your budget that we submitted, you know, right after the workshop to the revised budget on April 17th, there's a line item in, I believe it's 5070 on section 3, page 84 for engineering services. Originally, it was budgeted for, Dave had an amount in there for a water model study, and we increased that amount to accommodate for a full study in
By
that line item. So yeah, by 100,000. So it's in the engineering services line item.
Yeah.
I really appreciate finding Amy, but this is a perfect example. And, you know, it's hard to find. We would not know the questions and answers. Maybe a workshop would have been nice on top of it. It's too late now, but it's like you put the questions. Well, I'll just drop it. I'm sorry.
Well, no, question, And I think we should follow up, Joe, when we're done, but I think for tonight, I don't think it impact, at least in my opinion, it may in yours, of course, I don't think it impacts passing this budget, at least that aspect of it. So maybe we can move on and then make sure between now and the next meeting, which is May 11th, that we get everything clarified and maybe clarify it for the public at the May 11th meeting.
Mayor, we'll add a note. There should be, Trustee Snyder has a good point, and we'll add a note into a line item note that specifies that extra money is for that purpose.
Okay, so for now, if that, do you have any, Joe, does that answer your question? And do you have any others?
I only have really one more, if it's okay. With the process that's going on with the union and the non-union, are they both getting merit and COLA? Doug?
Well, we're in negotiations still, but go ahead, Doug. Explain where we are right now.
The non-union employees will have a salary freeze on May 1st. They will not get their annual cost of living range adjustment that they would otherwise get on May 1st will be deferred and will be whitelisted, and we'll see what happens. We are currently working with the 3 unions, and any change there will require an amendment to our bargaining agreements, our union contracts, or at least a memorandum of understanding. So we're still working with them toward that, and anything that's done will require board approval, and we expect to have some one or more items on your next agenda in that regard.
Well, with regarding the police, Doug, if we constantly have someone resigning for more money, et cetera, do you have something in your magic bag of tricks on how you're training or keeping these people? Because it takes, in my opinion, talking to the chief in the past, him getting up there, it takes 6 months to get an officer up to speed. We get them up to speed in less than 6 months to a year, we lose them. So why? Do you have some kind of plan to build this? Or is that why the union is giving us a hard time?
No, Joe, let me just give you, and then let Doug answer the question, but the process of hiring a police officer has always been an issue for past boards and past mayors, because it's actually probably even longer than 6 months by the time they go through the list, then choose the people who are from the list, and then they get into the academy and they have to go through that, and then psych tests and everything else. It actually is unfortunately even longer than 6 months. And so we have, John, Chief Madden will correct me, but I think I know we have 1, we may have 2 in the academy, and we have 2 openings, at least 2 openings now. So it's always been a catch-up process, and there's nothing we can do other than when there's an opening, we go to the list, we choose from the list, and then we have to put them in the academy, et cetera, et cetera. But if the chief wants to add to that, it has been a chronic administrative problem, not in Burr Ridge. It's happened, this is the way the system is built. It's not built to quickly be able to fill a slot.
Well, you've been the mayor before, Gary, and done a great job in the past and doing a great job now. But even in other mayors that have been there, this is the same problem going. It's like doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. So is there a plan, or can we buy a plan so we can keep these guys?
If I may add, one thing that we did change, Joe, last year, I'm part of the personnel committee, and and one of the things that a lot of the officers were looking for is to go from an 8-hour shift to a 12-hour shift. And it's something that we had been thinking about over the years, because we want to make sure that we keep the security and protection of our residents as priority number 1. And we wanted to ensure that if we go to a plan like this, that it'll work. And Chief Madden and Deputy Chief Loftus worked with the police and developed a plan of implementing the 12-hour work day. And It's was instituted, I believe, in the fourth quarter of last year, and there were some kinks, but we're good. We're strong now, and I think that's one of the tools that we can use to attract younger, better, and dedicated police officers, because that was, I believe, was one of the points of contentions, is the fact that we had 8-hour shifts, and it was difficult for police officers to take time off. Consecutive time off.
This is Anita Mittal. I have a quick question, Tony. So the 12-hour shifts, so they do like 3 or 4 days, and that's considered full-time, or how, or is that overtime?
I'm going to defer that to Chief Madden.
Because
No,
I'll
there's no-
just finish my question with that, because there's like $226,000 being paid for overtime, which is approximately 2.5 of the highest paid employees. Would it not make more sense to hire more employees so that we don't have to pay so much part-time? Because part-time is probably, overtime is probably time and a half. So there's obviously a need for more employees.
Yeah, a lot of the overtime comes from holidays that the police officer have to work, and then our events that we have in Burr Ridge is where a lot of our overtime comes in. But yeah, if Chief Madden can fill in some of the gaps there, that would be great.
Okay, so what you're saying is even if we had full-time employees, we would have to pay them overtime because they're working at off hours.
Well, the overtime
Well,
covers.
the holidays.
Okay.
the overtime
Also,
covers-
it ain't only the hourly overtime. You got to think down the road for pensions.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the increasing salaries, right. So Chief, do you want to fill in anything? And again, these are very good questions, but we have a lot on our agenda tonight. We want to just get the budget approved. And these are things that we have to address. And frankly, given what we're into now with COVID, this is going to be a moving target, almost on a meeting to meeting basis, at least for the next couple of quarters. But these are all things that we need to address. Chief, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, Mayor, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, in reference to Trustee Snyder's question, the process to hire a police officer, we've got to follow state statute. So the process is clearly defined in the statutes. And being a non-home rule community, we've got to follow that process. So we can't engage in a different process. We've got to stick with the one we've been doing for years. As far as 12-hour shifts, there is no overtime on the 12-hour shifts. The only time that would cause overtime is if we're short-staffed. With the overtime, there's, and Trustee Schiappa is right, there's holiday time, but there's also court time, which is also a big column in my overtime budget, and then hire back. And hire back could be related to being shorthanded because of retirements, which we've had a couple in this budget, this current budget, and also family medical leave requests, where I've had, I think, approximately 3 or 4 in the past year. So that'll short us. We've had 2 retirements. We've got 3 open spots, and we've got 1 recruit that's got about 2 weeks to finish in the academy, and he's on hold right now. If that answers your questions.
Does that answer your question, Anita?
Yes, thank you. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
One other point, Chief, you may want to make is that your normal contingent staff is 27 officers, and you're down to 25. Yes. You're 2 people short, so you're covering those 2 people with overtime right now. Correct?
We're actually 4 short.
4 short. My apologies.
Open spots, and then the recruit. Yes.
But you're covering those with overtime.
Well, right now we're not, because nobody's on benefit leave because of the lockdown, the COVID lockdown, the quarantine. But normally, yes, there would be during vacation leave months, which January, February, March, you don't see a lot of officers take vacation. But when we start getting into the summer, yes, that would require overtime.
Okay, are there any other questions about the item before us, the budget for 2021? Any other trustees have any other questions?
One last question, Gary.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Wait, Go ahead, Joe, why don't you finish up and then,
Only one last question. I know we're
I
gonna,
also have one question after that.
I know we're having, gonna have monthly updates or reports. I'd just like to know, we're gonna go into this budget, we're gonna approve it tonight. I don't want to discuss it in May and then say, well, we already approved it. The reports that we're gonna get going forward, will Jerry and Doug be able to provide us with not only the past, but the future and the things showing us that we can change things, the variations. All of a sudden, the income can't come in, so we have an option. There's 2 or 3 options rather than get this and then send them back and say, we'll get back to you. I would like to have the reports all timely, all at once, rather than coming back and forth each time, if it's okay.
yeah, and we're definitely going to do that. And of course, we've got things waitlisted. And of course, we're going to have to be considering some of those. And that's why I understand, it's my understanding that the board will have to be considering budget issues at almost every meeting now through this pandemic, considering all the items that we've had to wait list. So it'll be an ongoing process.
This is Anita Mittal. I had a quick question about legal services, section 3, page 11. They're projected to be higher next year. I know 2019 to 2020, we had Sterigenics, which was a big ticket item. I just wanted to see why it's projected to be higher than that this year.
Doug? Doug?
Yes, sorry. One reason is that we're going to local adjudication, I believe, and Jerry or Amy can weigh in too, but we've noticed that, for local adjudication, we'll be spending some more money. I don't know if that's showing up there. Jerry, or Amy, is that correct? Is that what it looks like?
There's a couple items. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, a couple of the reasons that it's higher in the 2021 budget is due to the union negotiations for the Public Works Union contract. That's an additional fee, and also there's a police sergeants and corporals union negotiation that is an additional fee, and there's also a fee that was budgeted for the possibility of setting up a 501c3 foundation that is in that.
So my question was just specifically for general services SRD. So because that's more than last year.
I believe the fees increased over prior year to the 2021 budget, if I'm not mistaken.
Amy, I believe though, I think the 1920 general services budget for legal fees was $85,000 plus $32,000. We switched law firms in the middle of the year.
Okay.
All
right, that makes sense.
And so we actually are budgeting less in general services legal fees. As Amy said, there's some additional items, other areas where our legal expenses are going up.
Fair enough. No, that makes sense. I didn't see that. Okay, thank you.
So I think, Joe, you're done. Anita, you're done. Zach, did you have questions?
Yeah, about the water fund, why are we projecting an aggressive increase? It was asked already. To me, you should budget conservatively and always plan for the worst and hope for the best. Why are we budgeting aggressively, counting on a wet year? That might not happen. There are other problems, other concerns I have, but that's the shortest one I could ask right now.
Well, as I said, we've budgeted based on assuming some increase. Last year was a low year in terms of water use because it was a wet summer. So we went back and we assumed a normal summer. Plus we have an 8% increase in our water bills that'll be tacked on. So that's part of the increase. The revenue side of it in this case is important, but it's not as important as the expenditure side. I mean, the expenditure side is what we have control over, and we're projecting a $1.6 million reserve at the end of this fiscal year. So even if the revenue comes in lower, we're still in good shape, and we'll evaluate, as we do every year, we'll evaluate the water rates in February, and if we need to make an adjustment, we can.
Okay, I would just dispute that you can control either side of the expense equation with water, because you don't control the weather and we don't know when a water main is going to break. So I would urge very conservative planning, but there you go.
Okay, any trustee, does any other trustee have a question on the fiscal year 2021 budget? All right, Doug, anybody has any of the public either emailed or called in?
No, I have not gotten any messages.
Okay, then if all the trustees have asked questions and we have no comment from the public, can I have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Skiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Matal, trustee Matal,
Are you muted?
Yes.
trustee
you.
Model,
No.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
5-1.
5-1, motion passes for the 2021 budget. Okay, that takes us to 6B, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code by adding Article 18 entitled Code of Conduct for the elected officials, department heads, and appointed members of committees and commissions. I think you've all seen this. It's been asked for by several of the trustees over the last couple of weeks and months. Does anybody, first of all, can I get a motion to approve? Can I get a motion to approve the ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code, adding Article 18, the Code of Conduct?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion by the trustees? Does anybody have any comment or have any questions?
This is
Okay.
trustee Model.
Trustee
I
Model?
object to this change. I would like to see that we start enforcing the current code, and the current village code, for example, section, I believe it is 10, talks about the liquor commissioner and having family with business with licensees, and I brought this to your attention, you don't enforce it. So there's several items in the current code we don't enforce. I think we should enforce those first before we start worrying about other changes. Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment? Okay, Doug, has there been any public comment by email or phone?
No, there has not.
Okay, then Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Skiappa,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
5-1.
5-1, the motion passes. That takes us to ordinance C, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2.67, Article 11 of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code entitled Rules of Order. First of all, can I get a motion to approve that ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or any discussion amongst the trustees on item 6C?
Yes, this is trustee Model. I have a comment, please.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. I object to this rule change. It's clearly unconstitutional. Some of you enjoy being part of the majority, so for some of you, you might think this sounds like a good idea today, but I'm confident that in the future, you will find that this wasn't a good idea at all. Thank you.
Okay, Mike Durkin, is this ordinance just mirroring a state law that already exists?
Mayor, the first whereas clause cites to the Illinois Municipal Code and a section that specifically provides that the members of the board have the right to adopt rules of procedure and to expel members for disorderly conduct from one meeting, and you can't be expelled 2 times or more for the same action at one meeting. So that's what the statute provides, and this ordinance promulgating a provision that is reflected in state law.
Okay, so for board clarification, this ordinance is simply adopting what's already part of the Illinois Municipal Code. Does anybody else, I'm sorry, Doug, is there any public comment either by phone or email on this?
I have not received any emails or phone calls.
Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Baveza,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
5-1.
5-1, the motion passes. That takes us to 7 resolutions. A, consideration of a resolution censuring trustee Zachary Model for the 3rd time. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution of censure?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there any comments by any of the trustees on this resolution?
This is trustee Model, if I could, please.
Yes?
I object to this censure. It is factually and legally baseless. I feel it's nothing more than an attempt to silence and unconstitutionally obstruct me performing my duty as a trustee. I reserve any and all of my rights regarding this improper action.
Okay, any other trustees have any comments on this censure resolution?
This is Al. The comment is, when a trustee upsets a meeting like trustee Model did at the last meeting with his yelling and ramping and raging, I think this is the least we could do.
Anybody else? Doug, do we have any comment either by email or phone on this resolution?
No, we do not.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Schiappa,
Yes.
trustee Paveza,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
Trustee Model, the.
No,
as
I'm
I
voting no. I do get to vote. Point of order, Mayor. I do get to
Right,
vote
right.
on this, and I vote no.
I will let you talk. I will let you talk. Just let me finish. I was about to make the point that I don't believe the rules would allow you to vote, but of course I cannot stop you from voting. So if you wish to vote, go right ahead.
Trustee
I'm
Model?
voting no, and I'm voting no, thank you. And you did stop me from voting in the last meeting. Thank you.
Okay,
5-1.
5-1, Karen?
Yes.
5-1, the motion passes. Okay, that takes us to,
I have a question before we move on, please. This is trustee Francis.
yes, go ahead.
And can Village Attorney Durkin, can he establish whether a trustee is allowed to vote on items that are affecting him personally, professionally? I know there's a rule in our municipal code that talks about that, but I'd like to have official opinion on that, please, so we don't go through this again next time. Thank you.
Okay, I will ask him. Mike has given me that opinion. I think my position is correct, but I will get it in writing for the rest of the board. All
If I
right,
may, Mayor, the rule is rule number 9, and it provides that if a trustee is a member of the board is directly interested in a question, the members shall not vote. Now, Robert's Rules of Order would follow what Mayor Grasso just indicated, is that they are admonished not to vote, but Robert's Rules does not say they shall not vote. I would point out that Rule 2 of the Burr Ridge Village Code states that the president shall decide all questions of order, and in all cases where these rules are not applicable, Robert's Rules shall prevail. But you have a rule directly on point on this question, so my opinion would be that under your local rule, the trustee may be prevented from voting.
Okay, we'll get it in writing, and thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Guy, for asking the question. We'll get it clarified, and we'll move on. So that takes us to considerations. I would like to, in order to expedite things a bit, a motion to combine and approve items 8A, B, and C that all deal with the road program. Can I get, first of all, a motion to combine and approve items 8A, 8B, and 8C? 8A is consideration of recommendation to award a contract for 2020 road program resurfacing project to Schroeder Asphalt Services, Inc. of Huntley, Illinois, in the amount of $621,946.20. 8B is consideration of a recommendation to award the 2020 crack sealing contract to Denler, Inc. of Mokina, Illinois, through the Municipal Partnering Initiative joint bid in the amount of $59,892. And C is consideration of recommendation to award the 2020 pavement marking contract through the DuPage County Division of Transportation joint bid to Superior Road Striping, Inc. of Melrose Park, Illinois, in the amount not to exceed $20,000. Can I get a motion to combine and approve items 8A, 8B, 8E, and 8C?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion by any of the trustees? And Dave Pressig is available to answer any questions on 8A, B, or C.
This is Al. The question I have is I just want to know how comfortable Jerry feels, because once we let this award out, it's something we can't wait list, that we have enough to cover all of these without affecting really anything else dramatically.
Trustee Pavesa, I'll take that. The key to these 3 contracts is that we're not using any general fund revenues. It's being paid for entirely from restricted funds, those restricted funds being motor fuel tax and hotel motel tax. So not doing these projects would not benefit the general fund, and that money would just sit there. And so, and this is probably our number one priority. It is our number one priority when it comes to capital. And so that's why we're recommending that we proceed with these 3 contracts.
Very good.
Question, Al? Does that answer your question, Al?
Yes, it did. I pretty much knew it, but I just wanted to bring that up to the public's attention on how we operate this. And when they see 650,000, that under these conditions, they're not that worried.
Right. Does any other trustee have any questions about items 8A, B, or C?
Yes, this is trustee Model, please.
Yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Doug for clarifying that we are using hotel motel taxes for our road program. I think in the past when we were talking about home rule and stuff, that wasn't being let out clearly, and I just want to make sure that it's clear for the record that we do use those for the road program. So thank you for clarifying finally.
I think it's always been well stated that 25% of the hotel motel money this year and maybe for the next 2 years can be used for infrastructure. What the hotel motel, and this is of course infrastructure, what the hotel motel tax cannot be used for is for our police pension or other such extraordinary expenses that the village has. But thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention.
And what happens after 2 years, Gary, Mayor?
Based right now, on what the law says, it would sunset and then we can't use any of it. However, to be fair, you know, and especially given the economics that are now happening to all municipalities, home rule and non-home rule, and of course the state of Illinois and counties, I can't foresee the legislature allowing that provision to sunset. And hopefully, in fact, and I am, frankly, it's on my little agenda working with the legislature, I'm trying to get the legislature to give non-home rule communities more latitude than just using 25% of that amount of money for infrastructure. Doug, thank you. Doug, do we have any public comment by email or phone on any of the items listed on 8A, B, and C?
I do not have any emails or phone calls.
Okay, then, Madam Clerk, a roll call.
Just a moment, please. I have a comment. This is Trustee Francis.
Yes, I'm sorry, Guy, go right ahead.
No, my apologies. I should have interjected earlier. I just want to thank Dave Preisick and his group, village administrator, assistant village administrator, and Jerry for all assisting in getting these road program bids out early so that we can enjoy the best possible prices. We had 7 bidders with quality bids, and we got the best possible pricing on all of these items. And the residents and the village benefit from their hard work and their early due diligence that they perform year after year. I just want to make mention of that and thank them for it.
Thank you. And just one further footnote, we did in fact ask Dave and the powers to be as to whether or not these contract prices might drop, given the fact that oil prices have dropped. And it is the consensus of the people that we have spoken to and with Dave that it would not. In fact, if we waited because of other issues, these prices actually might go up, but wouldn't be marginally or substantially better, even given the fact that oil prices have gone down. So we did check that box also to make sure we were still getting the best contract, even in light of the recent drop in oil prices.
Good point. We did ask the question. Thank you.
So
Mayor, this
with
is Trustee
that,
Hall. I have one more question, please.
Sure.
Thank you. The question is for Dave Preissig, and I've heard some of this before, but I've received a lot of complaints from residents asking why their street isn't on the list and saying their street is in very bad condition. I received some photos of Elm Street and Burr Ridge and on other streets. They look pretty bad to me, but they're not on the list. And so I don't know if it's a budget issue that we're not allocating enough money here, or the criteria was too high, but it does sound like there's more roads that need attention. Okay, Dave, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, this is Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so every 2 years we rate the streets, and where Elm Street has been rated is, I know sometimes some certain parts look a little bit worse than others, but as an overall street, from Plainfield Road to 60th Street, it's rated a little bit better than the ones that we've been doing lately. A little bit has to do with timing too, that it was resurfaced last in 2008, and we're getting back to streets now that have been resurfaced in the early 2000s. So it's a little bit of timing, but a little bit more on condition, trying to maintain the streets, in the best condition possible with the limited funds available.
Okay.
So Dave, just one follow-up. Is it a matter of budget that we're not including all these streets? If we gave you more money, could we hit some more of these streets, or what's driving the criteria?
Sure. And at the January board meeting, we showed a graph of where we had spent money over the last 20 years in road programs. We're catching up to a lull in those, or to I hate to say we're hitting the curve, but streets that were a big bulk of streets that were done in the early 2000s are coming due now. So we're going to be catching up we were doing 5 miles of streets back then, spending, $1.4 million, and these years we've been spending $700,000 doing, around 2 miles of streets. So we're not at the pace that we were back then, but we showed in our graph that we would be catching up by spending a little bit more in future years.
Thank you.
Okay.
Couple
So,
more comments, please.
yes,
So basically, to answer Trustee Model's question, there are roads out there that are in worse shape, that are measured objectively in worse shape than Elm Street. So those roads are getting done before Elm Street gets redone. My first point. Second point is all of the road program, all the money is being spent in DuPage County, except for one small street, Fort Aaron Lane in Cook County. So just want to make that additional point as well. Thank you.
okay, thank you. And of course, as it was pointed out in the beginning, the road program is priority 1. And so it will be something we'll always look at, and hopefully the legislature will give us more latitude, and we'll be able to better use hotel motel money towards roads and hopefully even things like the police pension. But that remains to be seen. Can we get now a roll call, Madam Clerk, on the motion to combine approve items A, B, and C?
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
trustee Skiappa,
Yes.
trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Model,
No.
5-1.
Okay. Thank you. That those 3 items passed 5-1. 8D, consideration of Plan Commission recommendations to approve an amendment to the PUD ordinance A452-1892Z 01-2020 6101 County Line Road, King Brevaire House. Doug, excuse me,
Yes.
Doug.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Evan Walter, who is our staff liaison to the Plan Commission, to present the Plan Commission recommendation. Go ahead, Evan.
All right, can everyone see my screen? It should be the staff report.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
mine has never come up. The agenda didn't come up, nothing's come up, so I don't know. I must be doing something wrong, but don't hold up for me. Go ahead. I've read it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So briefly, this is Z01 2020 6101 County Line Road. The petitioner is King Brevard House. This is a request to an earlier amendment from 1992 to permit an independent living apartment building additions to several additional existing buildings, parking spaces, and other revisions of the interior roadways. This will also include some engineering features of the subject property. But the crux of it really, and if I can skip down here, I'm going to skip down to the landscaping plan. I believe it's a little easier to see what we're talking about. This is a fairly large file, so it's going to take me a little bit of time to render, but I'll get it sized up here in one moment. So on the left side of your screen here, you see County Line Road. Everyone has been down this vista. To the north, we have Catherine Lakey Park. This is in the village of Hinsdale. These are the Woods townhomes here along the south side. And then we've got residents in the village here on the east side of the property over here. So there's 3 lots adjoining this property line here. So generally speaking, this is the original house in this portion here, in this brown area. This also exists at this point, this light blue area. But this section here is new. This section here would be new. And this section here would be new. And this is the whole idea behind the petition, is to add this yellow box here. This is about 140,000 square feet of new buildings that will be going on the property. This is the purpose of the PUD revision. So this initial building here is going to be a large independent style living facility that'll have independent apartments. It'll have a grill. It'll have a 200-person facility for banquets, events, and other such functions that may exist at the facility. This addition here will be a health center addition. This will be nursing areas here. This will be some more skilled care living facilities here. Memory care will be in this area. And then they will be adding this here. This is a portico share. This is a grade level entrance that will allow much better vehicular access from the main road into the road here. And so there really is no, besides ancillary parking along the north side of the property here, this would allow this portico share to be installed here and allow for much more easily accessible drive-up features for people who are using this service. For anyone not aware of this, this is a publicly accessible doctor's office here that specializes in geriatric care. So while this is located at the King Brevard property, it is available to the general public. So anyone who's needing the services can go there. I want to make one note here just about the site plan in general. You see the dotted red line around the site plan. That is the extent of the work being done on the subject property. So while King Brevard House does have about a 35-acre property over the course of the entire landscape, the subject area of the petition is quite limited. And in a lot of areas really does not impact the true nature of King Brevard that we have come to see going down County Line Road. So all the townhouses here would remain. There'd be no changes to these houses here. There's additional ones south of them that'd be undisturbed as well. So the additions really are, again, centered around the yellow area here, this additional health center here, some renovations to the main health center here, and then this additional portico share. They're also planning to add some additional parking on the north side of the property line here. They're also planning to demolish 3 buildings to accommodate these items. There's one about here that'll be demolished, and there's 2 back here that will be demolished on the far northeast side of the property. So let me go back to the staff report. I'd like to just hit a few more items just for brevity's sake, or levity's sake, I should say. There are a couple items that the Plan Commission had recommended within this packet. Those were included in their Plan Commission letter to you. If you'd like to refer to those, you can see what the additional meeting items are. Those will include a small reduction in the property's parking on the north side of the property here. They include a fence along the east side of the property. They include additional construction staging, specifically here in this area here. This parking lot here is where a number of the construction staging will occur, but they had asked for additional construction staging on this area to ensure that dust and dirt don't get into these townhomes here. They had made a number of other smaller revisions to the property, but all in all, the petition writ large was approved 7-0 for recommendation by the Plan Commission. I know Commissioner Stratus is on the phone with us this evening. He can certainly provide additional comments on the matter if any questions are required of him. I'd like to just play quickly, for the petitioner's sake, a 3D flyover that they had provided at the Plan Commission meeting. And at that time, I'd just like to take comments from there. So this is about a 2-minute video. It has no sound, but I'm going to let it play from here. So again, this is the new portico share that I showed you, the ground level that had been seen on the north side of the property. We're looking at it from the park right now. Kind of coming over to the east at this point. That's the new medical center addition that would be built.
Evan, I apologize for interrupting. I think you need to share the video.
I'm sorry. My fault.
No worries. Didn't want you narrating the map here.
No. I appreciate you saying something. There we go. Okay, let's start over. So again, this is the 3D flyover. Looking at it from the top, of course. We're going to come in again, looking at the portico share on the north side. It's a very big file. I apologize. It's a little choppy. So once again, this is the grade level portico share in the north side of the property that would be built. We're looking at it from the vantage point of the park right now. The large building right in front of you is the health center addition. Moving to the west, or the east, I'm sorry. There's a new courtyard in there that would be built. And then we're coming into view of the main new building that would be built. This is that building A. There's the underground garage that was seen. This is the new courtyard. As you can see, the patina from the property is exactly the same as the initial building is. So they tried to match it exactly in terms of elevation, building height, and the rest. Moving more to the south here, you can see the exit to the parking garage there. Zooming back a little bit more, again, we're coming to the east, looking at it directly from the east at this point. This is the south side of the property at this point. We're looking at it from the townhomes. And then we're going to finish in this interior courtyard here that would be built in between the existing building on the left and the new building on the right. And as you can see, these buildings would be connected by breezeways. And the entire idea of those things would be to allow for accessible access between both the old building and the new building. So very old building being connected to a very new building. But in the center here will be this new courtyard that is being proposed. It's also being landscaped by professional landscapers that have worked within the village before. And at this point, we settle in and we see kind of the main vista. So with that, that's the extent of my questions. I know that the petitioners are on the phone as well. One thing I would like to note, we did receive one comment from a resident on Woodgate Drive. She had said that she wanted specifically a continuation due to a lack of notice. I would like to note that her PIN number was identified in both the original mailing from the first half of May. We initially were going to hold this meeting on March 16th, but then the pandemic kind of started in the state of Illinois at that point. We canceled that meeting. We moved the hearing to April 20th, but I would like to note that the resident was included in both mailers, both from March and April. So we're happy to take comments from the board, but I did want to note that for the record that I did receive a call about 5:30 today asking for a continuation to the next meeting to allow for additional time for comment. With that, I'll wrap up and listen for you. Thank you.
All right, first of all, let's thank you for that, Evan. I wish I could see it, but I can't. But in any event, first of all, let's start with the trustees. Do any trustees have any questions?
This is Trustee Schiappa. I know the Plan Commission talked about this at length, and they worked pretty hard to get to a resolution. There are some conditions that are present with this potential project as well. There are 7 conditions. I don't know, Evan, if you can review those, or if you want me to go over them.
No, I can do that. That's fine. Let me pull up the letter. So the initial condition is, of course, that the amendments be made subject to the submitted site plans, elevations, and engineering plans. So basically, besides the additional comments, whatever they submitted is what the Plan Commission recommended for approval. Yes. The additional 6 are as follow: additional landscaping installed beyond the additional spaces on the southwest side of the property. There's a small bank of spaces proposed to be built facing a townhome. We had suggested that there be about twice as much landscaping between the spaces and the townhomes, and that was agreed upon. The Plan Commission requested that the parking count being reduced by 15 spaces with reductions occurring on the northern property line. The magic of 15 spaces is that they're required to build 243 spaces by code, and they had proposed 258. So the reduction of 15 spaces was to put them right on line with the legal minimum that they need to have. The idea there was that it looked a little parking heavy on the northern side of the property line, and so they wanted to have additional landscaping within there. The fourth is that not more than 7 spaces be permitted along the northern property line without the inclusion of a landscape island. So again, trying to break up the concrete. Number 5, a light fixture within 20 feet of the northern and eastern property lines shall have light shields installed directing light towards the subject property, so trying to protect the park and the homes in the area. A 6-foot solid fence is going to be installed along the lot lines shared with the lots on Dugshire Court adjacent to the property. That's subject to staff approval. We're also going to be working with the residents on Dugshire Court to get their approval on the elevations. I'd like to put something up that they think is nice, but overall that was well received. And then lastly, the Plan Commission requested a detailed construction staging plan that is to be approved by staff, and I'll be working with engineer pricing on that to make sure that that is complete. And the idea there is to protect the Woods townhome developments from traffic access, dust, noise, and property damage. And that's the extent of the conditions.
Great, thank you, Evan.
Okay, any other trustees have any comments or questions?
This is trustee Francis. I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, trustee Model.
Thank you very much. I was confused. Who was requesting this extension or delay from public comments? Who wanted that?
It was a resident on Woodgate Drive.
Okay, and so far no one has proposed that we delay that, correct?
Correct.
And what was, is there any impact if we delay and wait another week for public comments? Does that impact the petitioner? Does that create other problems that anyone is aware of?
I'll direct that to the petitioner. They are on a delay, so if it takes them a moment to answer, that's because they're on the delay. So.
This is Anita Mittal. Quick question. So this whole extension, are they changing the type of care they're going to provide? Because I heard you mention there are some independent living apartments as well. So is it going to be like a consolidated community center where you transition from independent living to a nursing home, or they just ran out of space and they wanted to increase that?
The primary purpose of the petition, as stated at the Plan Commission, was that the market studies were showing that they needed to provide additional independent living services to stay competitive.
Right.
They are adding some additional skilled and medical care nursing in their new expansion on the north side. But I know that a major portion of this is directed at the idea that they did not have sufficient amounts of independent living apartments and units for the market to bear.
Fair enough. Yeah, because that's the trend that, you know, they just kind of come there and then they spend the rest of their life there, and starts with independent living. Okay, thank you.
Any other trustees? And then we haven't heard from the petitioner about whether or not a continuance of this would be detrimental.
This is Jim Moyer with SAS Architects. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So one of the things that we're working through right now in order to meet a construction schedule that we're looking for the beginning of next year is working with the Illinois Department of Public Health to get a certificate of need. And for that to happen, which is due the beginning of May, we have to provide that we've received zoning approval and then an actual cost of the project. So that would start to delay the project if we had to continue the project on further. We've already been a little bit delayed just because of the COVID-19 issue. So we would appreciate if we could take a vote on that tonight.
Okay, let me ask this question, and of course, if the trustees have any questions. COVID-19 has put everything on hold. I'm just wondering, in the absence of the COVID-19 issues, if it were approved by the board tonight, your certificate of need, is it going to still be processed? Do you know that for a fact?
Yes, it's still a process because it's when the paperwork gets on, you have to get onto an agenda that takes several months for them to look through that and review it and approve it. They're not going to just review it right away. So we're meeting their deadlines for a future meeting that's coming up. So everything's online, is scheduled on time right now. Nothing's been delayed.
Okay, Evan, the homeowner on Woodgate, did he or she tell you what their issue was?
Yes, so primarily the two that were specifically noted, and I should note that they had called me through a representative. They had noted that they were worried about light pollution and dust, specifically from the construction staging. And so again, to reference those points, we had made specific comment that we wanted to have light shields be installed on all the new light poles on the property, as well as have a higher than required staging plan to ensure that dust and traffic and noise and the like are properly controlled for the benefit of residents living directly across the street on Dragonfly from the impacts of these constructions. So I know that those were the two main points that they had brought up and mentioned, but certainly I don't want to speak for the entirety of the residents' feelings.
Mayor Grosso, if I
Yeah.
may. This is only for direction tonight. We're looking for direction from the board to prepare an ordinance. If the residents have new information or substantive conditions that they'd like added, and we believe the board believes they're relevant, you can do that at the next meeting.
Right, so thank you, Doug, for that. Here's what I'd like done, if the board is so inclined. We vote on it tonight. Again, it's only to vote to direct staff. And then we specifically have staff tomorrow reach out to the homeowner, the PIN number on Woodgate, and facilitate and urge them to get their comments in so that they can be considered and dealt with in advance and or satisfied for them before the May 11th meeting.
I have a comment, please.
Yes,
Trustee Franzese.
go ahead.
So King Brevard has been in existence since 1933. They've been in the village. They were annexed in 1975. They've been an excellent neighbor. They're making a multi-million-dollar investment in our community. And I support this proposal of theirs 100%. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Trustee Schiappa. I too also support this expansion, but I do want Evan or Doug to explain what the petitioner went through to communicate that a petition was going to get filed. So were letters sent out? Was the sign posted? Was the article put in the paper? What steps did we go through to communicate that this petition is going before the Planning Commission?
Certainly. So the village policy is that we need to mail a letter addressed specifically to the property owner within 750 feet of every property line all around the property. So state law is actually 250 feet. We do 750 feet.
About how many addresses was that?
It was about 300.
Okay, thank you.
So almost everybody on the Tomlin side got one. It went all the way over to Western Springs. But in the case of this particular petition, we went up to 1,000 just to be safe that everybody who could possibly be impacted would be getting a notice. So that would have included everybody on Woodgate, everybody near Sedgley and 60th. We actually did receive a letter from a resident on Sedgley in support. That appeared in the original Plan Commission packet. Everybody on the Tomlin side got a letter. The Village of Hinsdale was notified. And then everybody south of King Brevard was also notified. And I want to be clear that that was well past the southern property line, not just within the subject area of the petition. Beyond that, we also erected a sign at the physical entrance to the property, and we also did a legal notice in the paper for both meetings. So that included the March meeting in the Doings, and then actually the second meeting was advertised in the Chicago Tribune. So that was a much larger and much wider audience than just the Doings, but it would have appeared in any newspaper that the Chicago Tribune publishes in. So we feel that on the staff side, we went above and beyond than what we normally do, specifically because this is such a large petition. It's 145,000 new square feet of space on the subject property. We wanted to make sure that everybody received proper notice to have a comment on this particular petition.
Great. Thank you for that, Evan.
There's, sorry, this is Trustee Franzese. There's also one other place under legal notices and public hearings on our village website, there is a place that a resident can click on to learn more information should they have received a letter or read about it in the paper or talked to one of their neighbors and their neighbors told them about it or saw the sign. So there's many avenues in addition to what Evan has mentioned where a resident can find out more information about this and certainly pick up the phone and calling when they see a sign.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? As a courtesy and accommodation to Plan Commissioner Stratus, who is diligent to listen to all of this and has been part of it. Mike, do you want to make any comments at this time?
Yes, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can.
I have really nothing to add. I think staff did an excellent job of not only describing the petition and the impacts, but also the manifest recommendations of the Planning Commission. So I really have nothing to add.
Thank you. Okay, did we get any public comment, Doug, by telephone or email on this item?
No, I have not received any.
Okay, then if we're done with our comments, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
We don't have a motion, Mayor.
Oh,
I'll make the motion to approve the Plan Commission recommendation for amendment to the PUD for 6101 County Line Road, King Brevard House.
I'll second it.
okay, then we've had comment, unless somebody else wants to add a comment. We have no public comment, so roll call, please.
Trustee Francis,
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa,
Yes.
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
Trustee Matal, Trustee Matal,
Yes, yes.
Trustee Model,
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa,
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Congratulations. That's going to be a great addition to what is already, as been pointed out, one of the jewels of Burr Ridge. That'll take us to 8E, consideration of recommendation to amend the annual special events calendar. Doug?
Yes, I'll turn this one over to Evan as well.
Thank you, Doug. So I'm not going to go through the entire summary for this, but staff is looking for the following direction. There's 3 points. We'd like direction and confirmation to move Armed Forces Day, Run the Ridge, and the Classic Car Show to a later date to be determined. We're also looking for confirmation to cancel the summer concert series while rescheduling all scheduled acts to future dates to be determined. And then we're looking for direction for staff to work with the Downtown Events Committee to begin working on an alternative event design and special events calendar with an update provided to the board at the first meeting in July. So Janet and I got together a few weeks ago with Gary and Guy, wanted to begin the discussion. So we didn't have to have the decision between do we have events or do we not have events. And so everything in the summary is really just a discussion starter that we had through our brainstorm to say, how do we make sure that we abide by public health guidelines while also providing really a good outlet for residents that could be A, fun, B, enjoyable, you know, not having anxiety going out in public, but C, also really adherent to public health guidelines. Of course, the pandemic is still ongoing at this point, and we really just wanted to begin the discussion with Veterans Committee Chairperson Mickey Straub, of course, Downtown Events Committee Chair Anita Matal, and really just get the conversation started. So we did propose some ideas in the summary, but we want to be clear as staff that those are certainly not hard and fast. They were just there to help start the conversation and kind of give the board an insight as to what we've been thinking about on the staff side. Certainly, if you like things you see, great. If you'd like to add things, great as well. But we'd really like some direction to get going on really kind of redoing the special events calendar going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Any comments from the trustees?
This is Anita Mitel. I just wanted to add that we did check with the attorney, and we will not have to bear any financial liability from moving these events to a future date.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Anybody else? Any other trustees?
Can I add something on that? This is
Yeah,
Mike
Mike.
Durkin. The contracts themselves, most of them have acts of God or the existence of an epidemic in a few of them. But I would point out that most of these concerts are in June, July, August, and so you can't really predict whether that condition is going to continue to exist at that time. So I think it's prudent to discuss a mutual agreement to reschedule these rather than simply terminate those contracts unilaterally. I did see a story on WGN the other night where I believe it was Orland Park is in the same position, and they were catching some flack because they were not canceling their contracts, but the rationale for that was the same as I've articulated, that these events are scheduled several months down the road. So until you get to that point where the concert is going to take place is at the point when you can determine whether you have a continuing act of God. So I've discussed this with Doug, and there's going to be some effort put into reaching a mutual agreement along with these acts with regard to rescheduling those contracts. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Anita, I think you would also note that we've had, and Janet, I don't know if she's on, but we've had generally good relations with
Right.
all of our, so, and I think you've checked that out when we had our discussions.
Right. The understanding is that we will try to reschedule them for next year and schedule them later this year if possible.
Right. And that is a moving target, but I think it is prudent that we start discussing it. So any other trustees have any other comment?
Yes,
Doug?
this is trustee Model.
Yes.
So just so I'm clear, are we actually for sure canceling all these events? Because what if the states open back up and we're allowed to move forward, or are we just giving you the flexibility to adjust as needed?
So the direction we're seeking is the latter. It's really the ability to begin working with the Downtown Events Committee on establishing a best scenario going forward. Certainly, if this clears up and concerts are a feasible alternative or idea in August, I don't think it's anyone's desire to just straight away cancel everything. But certainly, we're looking for some initial direction to say, if the public health crisis did not subside, or there was a strong legal or public health recommendation to cancel or not have these types of gatherings, we would want to at least inform you that that's something we're at least keeping as an option. So we're making no decisions tonight. This is purely the direction to move forward with reimagining the special events calendar, and we'll be updating you regularly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So-
Thank you.
Sorry, anybody else?
I have a comment. So, Evan, so basically you're looking to us to make a recommendation on what is in our packet to move these events to potentially September, October, and November. So
I think that's some initial thoughts that we've been having. I mean, certainly
Right.
The example of the Armed Forces Day, it would be very challenging to have the event that we normally have during the current guidelines, especially because that is definitely under the stay-at-home order. But yes,
Right.
the general direction and theory is that we need to move things back.
So for example, Armed Forces Day would be in what's detailed in the packet is November 8th. Armed Forces / Veterans Day celebration.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a theory we've brought up, and certainly
Good.
we look forward to talking more about it.
Okay, great. That's all. Thank you.
I think what we wanted to do is get the board, have the board be informed about all of this. I don't know, Doug, Evan, we don't need a formal motion and passage, right?
No.
I would agree with that. We don't need a formal motion, just consensus and direction to begin the process.
Sounds to me that everybody understands that we're trying to be as flexible as possible. We're not making any definitive decisions, but we're keeping the board apprised, and we will come back to the board and keep them apprised for any actual decision, which will require a board vote, of course, is made. All right?
Fine.
Okay, that'll take us to 8F. This is Anita's show. This is an update on the 2020 Census and Complete Count Committee. Anita?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to let you know, as of today, 66.2% of the Burr Ridge residents have participated in the census. Now, the date has been extended to October 31st. We've received a 120-day extension to collect data because the people in the field haven't really gone door to door because of the pandemic. And so hopefully they will be out in the field on June 1st to go door to door and collect data. We are 7.7% higher than the village. As far as the village is concerned, we've mailed out a letter. We have also mailed out a postcard to all the residents. The concerns people had about the Willowbrook address went away after they received the postcard. So it is our understanding that clarified that issue. We are requesting all the residents to reach out to their friends, family, neighbors, centers of influence to participate in the census. It is the committee's request to the mayor and the board to see if we can put up a sign on the corner of Burr Ridge Parkway and County Line Road, just requesting residents or making them aware and saying participate in the census, or, you know, be counted in Burr Ridge, participate in the census. So just wanted to see if that'll happen. And yeah, so everyone, if you know a friend, family who haven't participated in it, please encourage them to take part in the census and let them know how important it is.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Do any trustees have any comments or questions of Anita?
Well, we've got, I know the Village of Burr Ridge is doing well. I'm competitive in the sense that I understand Darien's got a higher number than us, which is about 72%. So I'd like to challenge our residents to get counted and get above that 72% that Darien's at.
I'd like to aim at 99%, so
right.
We need to do everything we can in our powers. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I like your sign idea.
Yeah, because that corner is very eye-catching, and pretty much everyone passes through there.
Yep.
Right. And I think we changed the flashing light signs also to indicate the census needs to be addressed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So do I have to reach out to someone for that, or?
You've done it, and we will get it done, Anita.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Let me make one other point on this to the residents that might be listening. The other reason why it's important to be counted is because it actually means federal dollars back to even municipalities like Burr Ridge. In fact, 10 years ago, we voted as a board and a village to have a recount, actually spent the money and took the gamble, if you will, to have a recount to make sure that we got a better allocation from the federal government. Turned out it was a good idea, and we did have a recount, and we got additional monies that covered substantially more than the cost of the recount. So, but it's important, as Anita just said and Tony has just said, that we get it right now, and let's try to get 99% so that we get our maximum federal share of money. Okay, with that takes us to public comments. I know we have a letter that was sent in and to me and the trustees, and so I will have Doug send that out to all the trustees tomorrow as part of public comment. Doug, do we have any other public comment either by email or by call-in?
The only email I got was from Mr. Morton, and I'm not sure if he's on the phone and wants to present that himself, or if I should be reading that for him.
Mr. Morton, Rich, are you on the phone? If it's not too long, Doug, why don't you just quickly read it? And if not, if it's long, we should just file it with trustees.
I can forward it to the trustees if you prefer.
How long was it? Go ahead and read it.
Okay.
I'm here now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and trustees. This is Richard Morton. And to hear trustee Model at the last meeting screaming, using derogatory words, and making ethnic slurs is reprehensible to me. It's frightening and has no place in this public venue. It should be repugnant to the residents of Burr Ridge. Further, his attacks on staff are demeaning and demonstrate behavior that is unsuited to be a trustee. I have some additional concerns about trustee Model and his loyalty to the village. To begin, Illinois state statute requires elected or appointed officials to be a qualified elector. There are several requirements and prohibitions, including not being a felon and to have proof of residency. Since by appearance it would seem the trustee has abandoned his home on 79th Street, the trustee should be compelled to provide proof of residency and or update the Secretary of State and other entities with his current address. Trustee Model correctly references that he has a duty to support the Constitution of the state of Illinois, pursuant to his oath of office. Quote, each holder of a state office before taking office shall take and subscribe to the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office to the best of my ability. I want to remind trustee Model that the Illinois Constitution guarantees its residents a number of rights, including that the government will not invade our privacy. The Constitution also mandates that its citizens are treated with dignity and respect. Based on what I have witnessed, trustee Model has repeatedly violated the Illinois Constitution. The Illinois Constitution also prohibits discrimination in employment settings. I have heard trustee Model, as an agent for the village of Burr Ridge, continuously harass and belittle staff and board members who are all over the age of 45, a protected class under the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. He has most recently shouted at trustee Preveza that he's been a trustee too long after he targeted him with hateful and unsubstantiated allegations. Who is trustee Model to dictate that a senior board member no longer belongs on the board to serve his constituents? It is up to the people of Burr Ridge to elect, not trustee Model. Based on what I have witnessed, trustee Model has violated the Illinois Constitution. Another aspect of the Constitution is the criminal justice system. One of its stated goals is to return an offender to society and reincorporate him or her as a useful part of said society. The Illinois Constitution demands that he focus on rehabilitating the offender and do everything in his political power to assimilate the individual into society rather than punishing him or her. Trustee Model routinely invades the privacy through his repeated and unjust harassment of a Burr Ridge business owner and resident. Trustee Model continuously berates and harasses this person for an alleged past crime that, even if it were true, goes against the very Constitution which Model repeatedly claims to defend. The motive behind harassing this Burr Ridge resident is to make a spectacle, harass our mayor, trustees, and again, reprehensible. Based on what I have seen, trustees' previous actions, he has violated the Constitution. Finally, the Illinois Constitution guarantees its citizens the right to a healthy environment. The method in which Trustee Model communicates and the pervasive attacks and harassment that he has made towards the employees of the village and board members clearly violates the Illinois Constitution. If any of this were to occur in a typical employment setting, non-municipal, there would undoubtedly be claims to the EEOC, Department of Labor, and countless other civil actions against Trustee Model for age discrimination and a hostile work environment. To the mayor and other board members, you have a duty to the Burr Ridge residents to protect the village as a whole, and that includes what I perceive to be a costly legal threat to our village resulting from Trustee Model's actions. And I ask that you redouble your efforts to constrain Trustee Model from his abusive and tactless attacks. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Doug, is there any other public comment?
No, I do not have any others.
Okay, that will move us on to item 10, reports and communications from village officials. Do we have any reports or communications from any of the trustees?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I just want to extend my thank you to the staff, specifically the finance staff, Jerry, Amy, and Amy. You know, with this pandemic, they created 2 budgets in the time frame of 1 budget. I saw the stark differences between the 2 budgets that we reviewed, and it was a lot of work in doing these forecasts and trying to figure out what is best for the village. And I know they worked hard, and so I just want to thank them and Doug and everyone else for producing this budget for us to review. And we're gonna just keep a close eye on it. I hope at least on a monthly basis, so that you know, we're here to help, and I want to make sure that we help and make those right decisions. So thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to thank staff for doing such a great job. I know it must have been very hard, but they did, as Tony rightly said, create 2 budgets in the time for 1, and they at least made a very good start for us to have a balanced budget. So I really commend them for that. And thank you, Amy, for saving us about $45,000 with the telephone service. I know you went from analog to the other system or the other way around, and you know, those kind of dollars are really worth saving. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, then I will finish up. I also want to continue to encourage the residents to stay at home. We are beating this virus. We are in trying times. We need cooperation. I want to thank our great police department and John Madden specifically. They are our frontline defenders, and they are out there making sure our village is safe 24 hours, 7 days a week, and we owe them, as usual, a debt of service. And finally, before we meet again, which will be May 11th, it will be Mother's Day on May 10th. And so I want, on behalf of the Village of Burr Ridge and the trustees and staff, to wish a happy Mother's Day in advance to all the mothers. And hopefully we might have a little bit more freedom by then, and maybe it'll be a beautiful day and we can have a very special Mother's Day in Burr Ridge. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn to May 11, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Stay safe,
Stay safe.
everyone. Good night.